Om Shanti. Sanskaras. There are many varieties of sanskaras, types of sanskaras. In the simplest way, it will be said that whatever your karma is, regular, repeated karma, this will create your sanskaras. But it is also said that sanskaras are instilled into you in your upbringing. So that's a different kind of sanskara. Third kind of sanskara is sanskaras that come with you, that you get born with, that come from a previous lifetime, and that you may feel that you are not responsible for. Let us look first of all at sanskaras that come from your upbringing. When you are born, you will be told what you are in terms of your gender, what you are in terms of your social position, your family, your nationality, your language, your religion. All of these things are repeatedly told to you by people around you in your family, and they become your beliefs. And then you start to do what they say, and it becomes your idea of who you are. And then this becomes a particular set of sanskaras. You are aware of yourself in that way, and then you act accordingly. So that is one kind of sanskara. Sanskaras that you come in with, these are very deep. They may be connected with your talents, your aptitudes, whether you're artistic, scientific, whether you have some speciality. Sometimes these specialities are called gifts, and if you're religious, you will say, these are gifts from God. Otherwise, someone else will say, these are sanskaras that you have developed in another life, and that you have the result of that practice in a facility in this life, like a facility for music, a facility for languages. In this program, we're looking at changing sanskaras. Some people think of sanskaras as particular behavior patterns, and there are many people who talk a lot about changing your sanskaras in the sense of changing your behavior patterns. There are many assumptions about behavior patterns, and some people believe that your behavior patterns are connected with negative emotions, negative motivations, and then you have sanskaras according to your negative motivations and emotions, and that these are what you have to change. There's also a saying, very well-known saying, a leopard never changes his spots. So the question arises, is it possible to change your sanskaras? If so, which sanskaras should you change, and why should you change them? And who says you should change this sanskara or that sanskara? I'm sure that as you have grown up, there are many people who make observations about your behavior, and they say you should change your attitude, you should change your tone of voice, you should not believe like this, you should believe like that, you should not behave like that, you should behave like this. In our family, we don't do that, we do this. And so there are going to be a lot of people who would like you to act the way they would like you to act. And then you have to decide whether you can resist the pressure that they put on you, depending on how heavy the pressure is. And another question is, what about your own decision? Do you decide what your sanskaras are going to be? Do you choose which sanskaras are good that you want to cultivate and which sanskaras are not good that you want to get rid of? Well, it's really not so easy. There are people who say that you can change particular sanskaras one by one, and so start with the easy ones and work up to the difficult ones. So like that, there are many different approaches to the idea of change in behavior. What I would like to talk about today is something a little deeper than that, and I think I would like to talk about consciousness, because whatever is your consciousness, that will determine how you feel about yourself, what your beliefs are about yourself and about people around you. And so there are different kinds of consciousness. The simplest variation of consciousness that we usually talk about is either you are materialistically based consciousness or spiritually based consciousness. And within spiritually based consciousness, it could be more religious type of consciousness or more philosophical kind of consciousness. Both of these could be called spiritual. Among materially based consciousness, well, it depends. Are you more intellectually oriented? Are you more oriented towards looks and material benefit, material wealth, beauty? Do you have to be strong? Does it matter the color of your body in order to feel good about yourself or less good about yourself? Because there are many attitudes around which influence your sense of what you are and how you interpret consciousness. So first thing is, in terms of spirituality, we would say, well, the consciousness of the self as a being of light. And that goes beyond religion, it goes beyond matter. So if you think of yourself as a being of light, how does a being of light feel? How does a being of light operate? What emotions does a being of light have? What's the difference between being a being of light and thinking of yourself in terms of your gender, your colour, your religion, your race, all of these things? When you are in the middle of your day and you are acting according to who you are, according to how you normally act, you're not going to think about these things. You think about these things when you're studying them. But in order to make an actual impact on the self, we have to work on shifting what you think about to something which is so instant, so intuitive, so automatic, that you have actually created a shift in really who you are. So this is a very deep question, who you are. It's difficult for a person to pinpoint who they are because it's subtle and it cannot really be defined very easily in a set of words or a list of characteristics and qualities. Think about it in terms of the vibration that you feel that you are? What is my vibration? In spirituality, we talk about the consciousness of the soul and the vibration of peace, love, power, purity, and bliss. These are 5 different vibrations. And when you think about it in terms of music, if you play different musical notes in a harmonious way, where the different notes correspond to different qualities, you can imagine how that would look in terms of the vibration of yourself, the soul, and then how you would take that feeling of the self as a resonance, as a combination of resonances, and then how you would talk, how you would act, how you would respond, how you would be. And you can sense it, you can feel it, you can practice it. But then, when we're talking about changing sanskaras, we're talking about being in the moment. So when you're in the moment, you are surrounded by influences. There are people around you who you care about. And so when you're around people you care about, they influence you a lot. When you're around people you don't care about, then it's much less of an influence. This variation of influences makes a difference in your ability to act in the resonance of who you are in comparison with acting in the resonance of the other people around you and the energy that they project onto you or that they surround you with. And in the world that we all grow up in, everyone is surrounded by people who are applying different pressures on them. And there are environmental pressures. Environmental, to me, in this sense, refers specifically to the social environment. For example, you have your social environment at home, where the elders in the family are always telling you to be a certain way. So whenever you're around them, you become conscious of what they want and what their influence is. And so you very naturally are inclined towards behaving in that way. And then when those people are not there, and you have other people, maybe people your own age group or your friends, then that's a different influence. And then your sense of self, your resonance, your vibration shifts according to those people. Most of us spend time in studies at educational institutions or at work, in a work environment, and there is always the culture of the work environment or the educational environment, and this also exerts an influence. They want you to behave a certain way that resonates with that environment, and so they will exert pressure, they will exert influence. What I mean to say by all this is that to be completely your own self, completely free, you have to be in your power, so that you are the one who decides who you are, how you are, etc. And you may encounter a clash with other influences. When there is a clash of other influences, then whichever is the strongest one, that becomes the dominant one. If you are the strongest one, then you are the dominant one, and your resonance carries the day. But there are many other factors, motivations, things which you feel to be important, which are influences that also come from the inside. And much of it has to do with how you feel about yourself. If you feel confident about yourself, then your essence will come through more easily, and your essence will be expressed in how you talk, how you move, how you arrange yourself, how you respond to things. If you're not in your own confidence, then that will come through in your sanskaras, and it will be seen that you are unsure of yourself, uncomfortable in your environment, you're doing your best but not doing very well, or you may be reactive. So you can see that if you want to change specific behavior patterns without taking into consideration the social environment, the people around, the expectations, and so on, this will not be possible. This will not be practical. So this is why I think that more important than trying to change individual sanskaras, it's a good idea to focus attention on what type of consciousness am I in moment to moment. Because following the type of consciousness that you are in, there'll be sets of sanskaras that go together with that type of consciousness. So here you're looking not at individual behavior patterns, but a whole package of a personality. That means not individual personality traits, but your total, complete personality, the person that you are. And the person that you are has many flavors, many variations, which adjust to different circumstances and situations. But I think what's important is to be able to build the consciousness that I am the being of light who resonates, who is motivated by this essence of peace and purity, this essence of being true to the self. And then that will come through. One thing that's very important in any kind of attempt or effort to develop oneself personally is why you want to do this. Do you want to do this for yourself, or do you want to do this because there's an external influence that is trying to get you to do this? If it's an external influence, then it will be all the time clashing with your essential self, because your essential self is different from the external influence. At the same time, external influences have prepared you to be ready to listen to them, to be affected by them, and to diminish your own essential self. So part of the change of consciousness involves amplifying the sense of self. To amplify the sense of self, one needs to have good quality solitary time with the self. In solitary time with the self, you can connect yourself with your own pure essence, your heart, your soul, your being, and amplify that in meditation. It is said that the very best sanskaras of all are the sanskaras of God. God is very subtle. Mostly people don't know God. Most people believe in God, but according to various religious precepts. So there are variations in the consciousness of what God is, and to be able to actually perceive the sanskaras of God, I think you have to be rather mystical, because to perceive the sanskaras of God, you have to perceive them in your mind. Your mind has to be subtle as God is subtle. And when you do this, then you can feel yourself resonating with that higher resonance, which is sometimes called the higher power. I think mostly everyone will accept that God is light. Think of yourself as light. Sometimes people think God is light, but I am a man or a woman in this or that religion and culture and colour and gender. And so it's very difficult to get a resonance. But if you think God is light and I am light, what happens? You go to a different dimension. And that change of dimension is a very good way in which you can actually intensify your consciousness. I am light on the same dimension as God. God is light, power, that stream of energy that comes to you when you connect with that source, pulls you out of the dimension of matter and brings you closer to a dimension that resonates in a very powerful way with your essential essence, your essential beauty, your essential peace. The trick is to stay in this dimension. That means you have to practice being a point of light, connected with the source of light, and at the same time come into action through the body, trying to keep yourself connected with that source so that you maintain that resonance. Then, when you're coming into action in that resonance, you're coming into action in your power, and you correspond to that connection with the Supreme Being. This connection is very subtle. It's very difficult to stay connected because of all the other influences. The default state is material consciousness. The default state is under the influence of whoever's around. You are influenced predominantly by sense perceptions. Suppose you are in an environment where the sound is really loud and you don't like that sound. There is this feeling inside of repulsion and of protecting yourself against that sound. When you're in that situation, that sound resonates and corresponds with a particular set of sanskaras. And that set of sanskaras coming from the outside presses itself upon you and finds ways to manifest itself through you, even though these are not your sanskaras, is because you are resisting something that you don't like. In the same way, you can also be in a situation where the sights and sounds and people are very attractive to you. You like them, you feel comfortable. And so they may not be you, but you like them, you are drawn to them, you desire them, you want to be like them, and so they can very easily manifest themselves through you, and they may be a combination of energies, of resonances that correspond to your spiritual essence, but also they correspond to appetites, to desires, to things which actually pull you away from your essence, and then those sanskaras start to come through. You start to imitate, to be part of that environment, to reflect it, and then you move away from your essential self. So I'm pointing this out to make people a little bit aware that it is not so easy to take command of the sanskaras that are manifested through you, because it is very subtle, there are many elements involved, and it is also connected with the state of being that you are in. Are you in your power? Are you not in your power? Are you in a familiar environment? Are you in your territory? Or are you in someone else's territory? I don't know if you've ever experienced this, but one thing that we do find among people who meditate regularly is that the place, which is your place, your home, your place of residence, starts to take on your vibrations. And your essential qualities, the sanskaras that correspond to who you really are, they start to be reflected in the atmosphere of your place. And you say, this is my place, because it's filled with your vibrations, your sanskaras, your feelings, what you are comfortable with. And then anyone else coming into that place does not have the power to override your vibrations, because your vibrations are dominant in that place. And this is why when you want to do something very important or have a very important meeting with someone, then bring that person into your area so that your influence is at maximum, and then you will be able to achieve what you want to achieve and convey to that person who you are and what you stand for much more easily than when you are away from your home base and you are in another person's atmosphere, another vibration where you don't resonate. So these are subtle things, these are even little tips for operating at your optimum level. So with these few thoughts, I would like to take your leave and hope that you enjoy practicing to be in your power, to be in the sanskaras that correspond to who you really are, and that you enjoy being your real self. Om Shanti.